By rookie Jacob Abel, driving the number 51, Dale Coyne Racing Honda. This upcoming season, after finishing runner-up in the Indy Next by Firestone Championship with 3 poles and 3 wins last year. I guess we haven't heard from you since the announcement yesterday. Just your thoughts on getting a full-time ride for 2025. Exciting times for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. Huge thank you to everyone who's kind of helped me out in my entire career for making this happen, and in particularly Dale and everybody at Dale Coyne Racing. I'm really looking forward to going there and having a full season to build on things and really hopefully gain some momentum throughout the year. I think I've gotten a good relationship with Dale over the past couple of years, and he has confidence in me, and that's something I think that's really important, and it's good to feel as a driver. He's always been kind of confident in my abilities, so yeah, that's a good thing for sure, and I think there's a lot of good things to come with the team, and hopefully, we'll be getting some good results.
Yeah, and you've kind of dabbled in some testing, whatnot. How confident are you to hop in a car here and get going?
Yeah, I'm feeling really confident. I mean, I know it's going to be a learning curve for sure. Obviously, there's a lot to learn, but luckily, I've driven pretty much all of the tracks, I think, except for one. I have a fair amount of oval experience from the Indy Next season and seasons in the past. And yeah, in the couple tests that I have done, I feel like the cars are relatively similar in performance, especially now with the Firestone tire. It has a lot of very similar characteristics, especially on the oval. I did a test at Texas a couple months ago and allowed me to learn that and go through a bunch of changes and kind of figure out really what I want in a car. So yeah, I'm excited to bring that to Dale Coyne and everyone there.
Get started. The countdown is on. All right, questions in person. We'll take some time permitting off of Zoom as well. Begin with Bruce, then Ben, and then David. Do you have one? Go ahead.
For a young driver, is Dale an ideal team to start out with, because you really do get the hands-on approach from him?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a smaller team, but at the end of the day, it's still an IndyCar team, and there's a ton of people and a ton of stuff that goes into it. So yeah, but I think you get a lot of interaction with Dale, with the team owner himself, that you might not get other places. And I think he's always been known for developing young drivers. You look at probably most recently, David Malukas was an Indy Next vice champion, went there for a couple of years, had some really, really strong results, and now he's kind of moved on and up in the series. And yeah, I think that's a really cool thing, and I think that's what Dale prides himself in, is really taking in the young guys and trying to build them into champions.
Also, the team is pretty much built with a bunch of hardcore racers. They could make more money on other teams, but a lot of them just really like to be able to have more input into the overall success and competition of the team. And how valuable is that?
Yeah, it's huge. With the announcement just happening yesterday, I haven't gotten to spend all that much time with the team yet, but I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to building a relationship with everyone. I've driven for the same team for the past 4 or 5 years, so that's something that I really prided myself on, is being super close to every single member of the team and kind of building that culture and having that family atmosphere and having everyone being confident in each other and having a really good relationship, I think, is super important to have success.
Ben?
Thanks, Dave. Hey, Jacob, welcome to IndyCar.
Thank you.
Have you set yourself any targets yet, or is it a bit too early to get that kind of sorted for the season?
Yeah, it's hard to say. We just finished everything up, so I haven't really even had a chance to breathe yet and catch my breath and look into everything yet. But I think the first and easiest thing and goal would be that Rookie of the Year title. I think it's going to be Robert Schwartzman and myself and Louis, who I'm obviously very familiar with racing against. I think we're all in relatively similar sized teams, similar positions. So I think that'll be a pretty competitive race. My goal is, I think that's one of the goals, at least looking forward, similar to that with the Indy 500. But yeah, I think they'll be dynamic throughout the year. If we show up and have a really good St. Pete, then everything changes. Then all the goals change throughout the year. And I think for me personally, it's going to be just trying to maximize every single opportunity that I have and make the most out of all of it and just learn as much as I can. I'm in a very, very fortunate position to have a full season, to be able to go out there and learn from my mistakes and hopefully learn from my non-mistakes too. And yeah, just hopefully just try and keep building throughout the whole entire year, not trying to take too much at once.
David.
Yeah, Jacob, you had a pretty big test. You mentioned it, Texas Motor Speedway with Chip Ganassi Racing. For your first IndyCar oval or super speedway experience, I mean, how crucial was that to be with essentially the top team in the series? And you kind of mentioned it a little bit, just really be able to learn what feels good and maybe what doesn't feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm very thankful for that whole entire organization for giving me that opportunity. You know, Michael, Taylor, Kyle, Chip himself. It was a super cool opportunity. You know, I was part of that program for, let's say, the 2 weeks leading up to the test and the test itself. And in that time, I just tried to soak in as much as I can. I mean, they're one of the winningest teams in IndyCar history. I mean, they have a ton of championships. I don't even know how many. So it's just to try and be as much of a sponge as I could during that and just see how they go through all of their processes and how they handle things, you know, both preparing for an event and not the event itself was a really cool experience. And I think that'll give me a really, really good base for this year.
You mentioned the relationship between yourself and Dale. I know your father and Dale seemed to have a pretty good relationship. I saw them at a couple of different racetracks throughout the year, you know, kind of getting to know each other. So just kind of talk, I mean, I know the family dynamic is obviously very important to you. You know, talk about that kind of dynamic and also being able to bring Dale and the team into that.
Yeah, it's huge. You know, obviously I've been driving for Abel Motorsports the past few years, and it's been a cool experience because we have been able to build something together. And it was cool. I think that team is going to have a really successful year next year or this year in Indy next. And I'm kind of looking forward to doing a similar thing and being in a similar position at Coyne Racing. You know, we know we're going to be there for a year. So that's a good thing. And I think I'm going to try and kind of foster that same culture in that we had at Abel Motorsports, because I think that's genuinely something that led to our success. Is everybody is coming to work and happy to work there, and everyone gets along. And you know, I think if you're happy, you know, you're going to do better and be more stress free and all of that. You know, we're going into some of the biggest races and biggest events in the world, and you know, you want the people that surround you and the people that are by your side in that. You want to be friends with them. You want to be close with them because, you know, you don't have time to work things out internally when you're going against some of the best teams and best drivers in the world.
When the first kind of talks about you doing IndyCar, whether that was a one-off race or a full season, a lot of the talk was around doing it as the family team, as Abel Motorsports. Where does that goal stand right now? And is this a stepping stone to potentially doing that at some point, or are you a free agent at this point where you're just going to drive for other teams?
Yeah, I think I'm a free agent, I suppose, at this point. I guess I'm not right now. I'm a driver for Coyne Racing, so I'm certainly not a free agent until, you know, whenever. But yeah, I think with the whole charter system and how all of that went, you know, the teams on the outside looking in, naturally, it made it harder for them to get there. And now to be in a chartered car and a car that has a guaranteed spot on the grid at every race except for one is a really cool experience, and it allows me to be very confident and go out there and work through things and learn throughout an entire season. So even if we were able to work something out with Abel Motorsports, it wouldn't have been like that. We wouldn't have been obviously in a charter. So it would have been very difficult to learn when you don't even know if you're going to be racing week in and week out. So yeah, I think I'm very, very fortunate to be in this position, very fortunate to be with an experienced team like Coyne Racing, and just really looking forward to the future with them and being able to build something here.
Thank you, and congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, David. Let's go Eric and then Steve after that. Eric.
Congrats again, Jacob. Just curious your relationship with Louis. I mean, you just mentioned you guys kind of last couple of years battle for the next championship. Now here you are, both of you in the same rookie class. not necessarily the same situation. It kind of reminds me like a Pato Colton type thing, and just your relationship with them, and just do you see it like you two as just being this kind of like this friendly rivalry, hopefully for the foreseeable future for a while.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think there's a lot of mutual respect there. I mean, I certainly have a lot of respect for him. I think without taking away anything from anyone else in the next field last year, I think us two were kind of the class of the field. And that's something that, it takes a lot to get there. So I definitely respect him as a driver. And, we've obviously had our run-ins, just like anybody who's going to spend that many laps next to each other is going to have, especially when we're both so competitive and trying to work our way up through the ranks. But yeah, I think we're certainly friendly. We don't hang out every day, but yeah, there's no animosity there at all.
Steve?
You're a true product of the American open wheel ladder system. Maybe just explain how much it means to have that system in place where you can take your time and grow at each level to get to where you finally want to be.
It's so big. I think the ladder has grown so much ever since I started. I think my first race was in 2017 in the USF Pro Championships. And ever since then, I mean, there's been so many drivers coming and going. I think one of the things you always see, and when we're in the series, we kind of laugh about this, but you see a lot of people from Europe coming in who maybe don't respect the series enough, and they come in and they struggle more than they think they will, whether they're coming from F2, F3, whatever it may be. I think that just shows how competitive it truly is, and I think it's getting more and more competitive every year. I think Indy Next in particular, that's kind of been where I've spent the last 3 years of my life, and it's grown like crazy. I think if you rewind 10 years ago, there was only, 8 entries or whatever in some of those races. And now to have it full fields every single week with drivers from all over the world in every single discipline. I mean, you have some of the best junior drivers from Europe coming over and competing in it is really cool. And I think it shows how much these series help you as a driver. And I feel very confident going into IndyCar, having driven all of these tracks, having raced on ovals, having driven a Firestone, all of that, versus if I went to go race a series in Europe right now or something like that, where I would know none of the tracks or don't know the tire, don't know the car, don't know everyone in this room and the paddock. I think it would be a lot more intimidating. So I feel very comfortable with that.
Thanks.
Other questions in person? Let's take a few off of Zoom. We'll begin. Joey Barnes, motorsport.com. Go ahead, Joey.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Jacob, I know we don't quite know who your teammate's going to be yet, but I guess just kind of curious, is there a veteran presence in the paddock that you feel like you can kind of lean on a little bit as you try to build into this rookie season?
Yeah, I think, going back to those junior series, I've raced against a bunch of these guys, probably 10 or 15 of them throughout my junior open wheel career at some point. So it is a little bit of a fraternity, this whole group, especially the U.S. open wheel ladder guys, guys that come to mind are guys like Kyle Kirkwood, Colton Herta. Kyle I've been friends with, and we were teammates a long time ago, and we've kept in touch ever since. And I feel like I could ask him any question and he would be honest and try and help me if he could. Same goes with Colton. We've been friends ever since he was in Indy Lights and I was in USF 2000. So guys like that, I think definitely would be willing to help out.
Yeah, and then just the brief follow-up is just, it's nice that this gets announced 40 plus days out from St. Pete, obviously. I'm just kind of curious, just with the fact that you were vice champion and with the way that the off season went, was there any anxious moments for you in trying to get this sorted? I mean, was it ever really in question, or was it just a matter of time?
No, there were certainly anxious moments. I mean, to be completely honest, I've never really been in this situation at all. Having driven for Abel Motorsports the past 5 or 6 years, I've had a pretty good relationship with my team owners. So I've kind of had a little bit of a good idea of what the next year is going to look like pretty much as soon as the last race is over. So yeah, to go 4 or 5 months, kind of not really knowing I didn't really know. I didn't know what it should feel like. I didn't know, how often I should be on the phone with teams. I had an idea. I wanted to be talking to people as much as I can. But a lot of it is just kind of sitting back and preparing for something that you don't really know you're preparing for. So to finally get this done is definitely a relief, and kind of makes me feel like myself again, if that makes sense. I can go back to preparing for St. Pete, preparing for whatever test is next. There's however many races on the calendar ahead of us that I can basically start preparing for now. And that's something that is very comforting and makes me feel, kind of like myself again.
Awesome. Thanks, bud. Congrats.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Joey. To that point, I'm sure your dad must have been ecstatic when the deal got done, right?
It hasn't really set in for both of us yet. I don't really know when that's going to happen. That I am an IndyCar driver. So yeah, it's pretty cool for sure.
Very cool. Archie O'Reilly, Dive By Motorsports. We have time for one or two after that. Go ahead, Archie.
Cheers, Dave. Congrats, Jacob. When we spoke to you at the start of last month, you seemed pretty confident about landing something for 2025, but can you just give maybe a bit of an idea as to the timeline of how quickly this moved and when you kind of got the inkling that this deal with Dale was actually going to happen?
Yeah, again, I think it's a whole lot of it was just not really knowing. I feel like every conversation that I had with Dale was good, dating back to probably 2 or 3 months ago. I feel like we'd get off the phone and be like, that's productive. And I think he wants me here and I think I want to be there. But at the end of the day, it's always been a little bit, let's keep in touch. Let's talk in 3 weeks. Let's talk next week. So I think everything really started to become real in the past, week and a half or so. And that's kind of when things all started to come together, and it's all come together very quickly. And that's kind of why it's been a lot to take in very, very quickly, but I'm super thankful for it. And I'm super thankful that that has happened now. So at least I will have some time to, build that relationship with the team, get that communication base started over, a couple of test days. So that when we show up to St. Pete, it's not a hi, engineer, I'm Jacob. It's we know each other. We get that out of the way so that we can really hit the ground running.
Thanks, Jacob. Happy for you. Cheers, Dave.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Archie. Let's take two more. Jeroen Demidel, you're up next. Go ahead, Jeroen.
Thanks, Dave. Hey, Jacob, congratulations with your deal, man. Question, you just following up on Steve's question earlier, like you spent quite a long time on the road to Indy, 3 years in Indy Next. Do you feel that Indy Next has been a good enough preparation for what's ahead of you for IndyCar?
It's hard to say if it's good enough because I don't know yet. I feel very confident. In every time, the 2 times that I did drive an IndyCar, I felt very comfortable. I felt like I knew what to expect. Obviously, all the tracks are very similar, especially tracks like, St. Pete. That is a temporary road course. Nobody gets to really test there. So if it weren't for racing Indy Next, if it weren't for racing in the road to Indy, I would have no experience there. And I think that's something that's really important to me, is having that experience on these tracks. So kind of TBD how good of preparation it's going to be, but I do feel very, very confident. And you've seen it from drivers in the past who have come in and succeeded immediately.
Yeah, sure. Hey, and now, of course, there's only one seat available on the grid, which is going to be your teammate. A lot of speculation. What is it that you would want from a teammate? If you could choose, what is it? What kind of driver would you like to have next to you?
Yeah, I think it'd be really nice to have somebody with a bit of experience. Whatever that may be. IndyCar would be nice, but to have someone to really lean on. To be honest, I haven't really had that in my career. I did a long time ago, back in 2018, 2019, when I had some experienced teammates. But essentially, ever since then, it's kind of been me being the lead driver. And then I've had teammates that have definitely tested me, but I've never been in a situation where I'm really learning off of the other driver and trying to mimic what they do. So I think that'd be a really cool experience and a nice thing to have to learn from. But yeah, we'll see. I know pretty much as about everyone else. So yeah, we'll see.
All right. Thanks, man. And good luck this year.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Dave.
Thank you, Jeroen. David Turner, Racing World in New Zealand. Go ahead and wrap us up.
Thanks, Dave. We saw you down here last year along with Louis Foster in the CT Frog Toyota Racing Series. How do you feel that that prepared you going into what then became a pretty strong Indy Next series? Like obviously there was benefits of that which have now led to where you are today. Is there any factor that played into that equation?
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for that series. I'd been trying to get down there for the past probably 4 or 5 years. To be honest, I got down there a little bit late in my career, to where it was kind of a little bit of a step back in terms of car, in terms of horsepower, downforce, and all of that. But I think it was actually really good for me because it forced me to kind of slow everything down and go back to my basics a little bit, and kind of relearn that. But yeah, it's a fantastic series. You do 15 races in 5 weeks. It all kind of goes by in a blur. So I think I'm a huge advocate for it. I think you've seen a lot of guys come out of there and succeed. I think you look at the championship this year in particular, you're back to that, having a lot of the F1 junior drivers down there, and I think people are realizing the importance of it. And it's a cool championship, and it surely doesn't suck to be in New Zealand in the middle of the summer while it's about 10 degrees here in Indianapolis.
It's not bad weather, that's for sure. And then obviously a Kiwi and Callum Hedge driving for Abel Motorsports is another nice sideline from all that. But looking at you, a lot of things happened in the past few days, but has it sunk into the fact that you'll be attempting to qualify for the Indianapolis 500 this year?
I don't know. I don't really know when that's going to sink in. It's pretty funny because I've announced that I'm racing IndyCar for the full season this year, and all my friends are like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to be racing in Indy 500." I'm like, "Slow down, everyone." Like, I know, only one or two people aren't going to make it, and I feel pretty confident about it. But let's just take a step back. I'm going to be trying to attempt to qualify for the Indy 500. So, yes, I think it's going to be pretty crazy. I've gone to that race so many times. Just being from Louisville, Kentucky, only a couple hours away. I think my first one was the 98th running. So, just over 10 years ago now. But it's been something that I have imagined doing for so long. As I've walked the grid the past few years, I've always imagined what it's going to be like to be, strapping into one of those cars. So it's going to be a pretty unbelievable experience. I might cry, so don't look inside my helmet. But yeah, I'm really excited.
Well, we'll check up on you personally in May and see how you feel then. So well done
Sounds
on the
good.
weekend and look forward to seeing you at St. Pete.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. One more in person, then we'll let you go after that. Go ahead, Bruce.
Since you're from Louisville, I gotta ask this: how do you compare and contrast Derby Day and the Indy
I knew that one was
500?
coming. Well, this is funny because we had a huge argument about this on Thanksgiving this year. Half the family was cheering for the Indy 500 and advocating for that, and the other half was advocating for Derby. I think they're so different. I've been to Derby once. Yeah, they're just completely different things. I think they're both obviously fantastic spectacles. I think the Derby is kind of the classy, you know, you wear your nice dress and your nice suit and your big hat and whatever. But the Indy 500 is cool. I think you see a lot of pure race fans there, where I don't think the Derby is as much of like pure horse racing fans. I think you see more, real race fans at the Indy 500, and a lot of people go to the Derby for the experience and the glitz and the glam. Both are amazing, and I'm a huge fan of both, and I would never choose one over the other. But yeah, I think that's kind of where they differ.
But you get that same experience, that iconic experience, seeing the spires as you do the speedway.
Me personally, no, because I'm a race car driver, and it's something I've dreamed about my whole entire life. But you know, the whole Kentucky Derby experience is very similar. My old Kentucky home is very similar to back home again in Indiana. You get that same feeling in the pre-race and all of that. So, yeah, definitely a lot of similarities there, and I think both cultures, both cities embrace them similarly.
You have a relationship with Danny Sullivan, who's from Louisville.
Yeah, no, I've been trying to maybe start that recently. I to be honest, I don't. I'm a fan of his for sure, but yeah, I'd love to to reach out to him and start to form some relationship, because he is one of the last drivers that is from Louisville. And I think that's something that is pretty big to my identity for, you look at the markets for the TV markets and all that, Louisville's right up there with the top. So I think that's kind of a lot of what we're targeting in terms of sponsorship and partners and things like that is kind of that Louisville area, Bourbon Country, all of that.
Both events also have Indy fields. That can get a little crazy at times. So
They do. They certainly do.
There is that.
Yes,
and
they
horsepower,
do.
Exactly. We're so happy for you. Can't wait to see you on the track. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, man.
That's
Thank
Jacob
you,
Abel. Yep. And just a couple minutes, Christian Lundgaard will join us, the new driver at Arrow McLaren.